Hey y'all, welcome back. We've got one more video for the night. We're going to go ahead and kick off the Prophets Live series. I believe that this is from One Islam Productions. The title of this video is, I'm assuming this is the first of the entire series, is The Beginning, the Story of Adam Part 1. So we're just going to go ahead and kick this off. So let's go, man.
Allah Azza wa Jal, in the beginning it was Him as a being and there was nothing else. And there's a hadith in Muslim that says that Allah Azza wa Jal was there and there was nothing else besides Him. So He wanted others or creation, He wanted a creation to know Him. So He created the creation. So the first thing He created was the pen. And the pen, again that's a hadith in Muslim, that the first thing Allah created was the pen. And the pen was the thing that wrote. He created the tablet. Now what is the tablet? The tablet is a large piece of stone or something similar to it. And He told the pen to write. And He told it to write everything that would come into existence, everything of His irada, of His will, whatever He's going to will. And He told it to write everything about the creation, whatever is going to happen. So every minute detail to the last detail was all written on this tablet. And this tablet is something that the ulama of tafsir, they have debated where this tablet is. And some have said that it's on the fourth heaven, some have said that it's above all the heavens. And then there is a debate whether anyone else apart from Allah has got access to this tablet with which Allah has written all the details. Now, again, these are debates amongst the mufassirin, those who have done tafsir of the Quran. So there's a group that say, no, it is only Allah Azza wa Jal that has, He's the only one who knows what's in this tablet and no one else. But there are a group of scholars who say that only the highest of angels have got some glimpse of this tablet. Again, this tablet is so large with so much description that it's impossible for anyone to cover it.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that as he was narrating this. Can you imagine the size of that? Because if it's about all of creation, I'm assuming that it has to do with, let's just say every human that's ever lived, like every decision that every human's going to make and every event that takes place. That's the way that I've taken this so far. That would have to be a size that we just can't comprehend. All right, let's go.
With so much description that it's impossible for anyone to cover it. It's impossible for any creation to cover it. But the Mufassirun have said that there is, because why they say this is because the angels, they're divided into two. That's quite clear in the Quran. If you look in Surah Tahrim, which is the 66th surah, and ayah number 6, you will see that Allah describes one form of angels that do exactly as Allah has told them to do. وَيَفْعَلُونَ مَا يُؤْمَرُونَ. They do exactly as Allah has told them. They don't question. These are angels who don't question. This is in Surah Tahrim, ayah number 6. Whereas if you look in Surah Baqarah, and the ayah that we're going to study today, Surah Baqarah, ayah number 30, you will find that there are angels that question. And their questioning is not because they're challenging, their questioning is to find further information. And what then happens is that Allah Azza wa Jal later on He says in ayah number 32, by the time you get to ayah number 33 in Surah Baqarah, Allah Azza wa Jal, He says that, oh you angels, whatever you used to hide, whatever you hid, I even know that. Now what is that thing that they hid? What is the thing that the angels hid? Now this is where the Mufassirun say, or some Mufassirun have said, that some of the highest angels, they only question because they want further clarification. And that they did get some of them got some access to some parts of what this creation of the human beings might be and what they might do. How else would they know that this creation is going to shed blood on the earth? How else would they know that there's going to be bloodshed on the earth? Because if you think about it, blood itself is part of a human thing, and to kill one another and to shed blood is something that we're able to do, as in we kill each other.
Yeah, in the I think, is it the second chapter of the Quran? I believe that is explained. The angels, they ask Allah if the humans are going to shed blood, or something along those lines. It's been I don't know, 6-7 weeks since I read that, but I do recall that. All right, let's go.
And to kill one another and to shed blood is something that we're able to do, as in we kill each other. Some others have argued that no, the shedding of blood is something that the angels would have known because of creation Allah created on the earth before the human beings. So for example, Allah created many animals on the earth that would beasts on the earth that we would know perhaps as dinosaurs today. So the thing about dinosaurs is something that we don't deny. We don't deny, because we believe that the earth was made many thousands of years before the human being came onto the earth. An interesting factor that the Mufassirun say is that the human being himself on the earth hasn't been here for very long. So they say that from our time to the time of Isa alayhi salam is about 2,000 years, approximately. From Isa alayhi salam to Musa alayhi salam is approximately 2,000 years. From Musa alayhi salam to Ibrahim alayhi salam is about 2,000 years. And from Ibrahim alayhi salam to Nuh alayhi salam is about another 2,000 years. And from Nuh alayhi salam to about Adam alayhi salam is probably another 2,000 or more or less years. So what they say, and most of this is from the depths of what the Mufassirun have said. And I'm not going to say these are authentic narrations. What I'm going to say is that a lot of this, what I've just mentioned now, is from riwayat or from narrations that could be classified as Israeli riwayat, which means that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, do not verify them for certainty, and he said, do not reject them totally. And this is a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why you shouldn't verify them in its totality is because if you verify everything that is there, you might verify something that wasn't true. And if you reject it, you might reject something that was true. Now, where did the Israeli riwayat come from? Where did the Israeli riwayat come from? The Israeli riwayat came from the ulama, the scholars, early scholars of Islam amongst the Sahaba who were Jewish rabbis before. They were Jewish rabbis, and some of them were Christians before. And the Ahbarul Yahud, the rabbis, there's a good 3, 4 or 5 of them, notably 3 of them, who came, when they came to Islam, they started to narrate what the Torah had from beforehand. So remember about the Torah, we know that it is a true book, and we can't deny whatever is in there, because we might be denying something which is not true. Now if it's going against the Quran and the Quran says that was wrong, we can deny it, that's fine. But if the Quran hasn't spoke of it, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam hasn't spoke of it, but it's there, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, simply just you can read from it, hear it, fine, but don't verify it to its absolute certainty and say it is authentic, and don't deny it either and say no, it is not true and is batil or something and is unfound, because of the nature of what it might be. It might be Allah's word in the end, right? So anyway, this is from the Israeli riwayat of how many years it is. So according to that, it would be about 10,000 years or perhaps a little bit more from the time of Adam alayhi salam being here. Now again, this will go against many of what the archaeologists or others are saying today. Now I'm not saying again this is Islamic, but this is something that has come through the traditions from some rabbis who converted to Islam amongst the Sahabas. There were Sahaba radiyallahu anhum ajma'in who then started to narrate what was in the Torah. Now another thing we get from here, because none of this period, you see, the only thing you get from the authentic sources is that Allah created the pen, and then He created the tablet, and then He created the angels. We know that He created the angels. Now that would be something from one of the first things Allah created. Fine, He created the angels, and then after that He created the earth. And that there's a lot of description on the earth itself and what He created and how He created, and that's in the Quran. And then there's a hadith in Muslim to say on specific days Allah created different things. Specific days Allah created different things. And there is that thing that in the Quran it says, Sittati ayyam, that Allah created all of this in 6 days. Now this is in various parts of the Quran that Allah created all of this in 6 days. Now the Torah goes on to say, Na'udhu billah, we don't believe in this, that God rested on the 7th day. Now we don't believe in that, but we do believe that it took 6 days to create the whole of this existence. Now when we say 6 days, Allah Azza wa Jal says in an ayah of Surah Hajj, He says, وَإِنَّ يَوْمًا عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ كَأَلِفِ سَنَةٍ مِمَّا تَعُدُّونَ, that one of your days is equivalent to 1,000 days, according to what Allah Azza wa Jal, so one of Allah's days is like 1,000 of our days.
That's something I've always had a question about, because I believe that that is the same in Christianity or in the Bible, that God rested on the seventh day, if I remember correctly. I'm going to be honest, I haven't read the Old Testament at all in a very, very long time, but that does sound correct. And a question I always had about that is like, why would God need to rest? Now, I say that possibly out of ignorance, but that was a question that I always had. And then also in Christianity, I've heard that several times, that they believe it's been roughly between 7,000 and 10,000 years from the time of Adam. So I thought that was interesting. All right, let's go.
Allah Azza wa Jal, so one of Allah's days is like 1,000 of our days. So which means that it was 6,000. كَأَلِفِ سَنَةٍ مَا تَعُدُّونَ, sorry. وَإِنَّ يَوْمًا عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ, one day of Allah is like 1,000 years according to you. That's one day of Allah is according to 1,000 years of yours, which would mean that 6 days of God would be 6,000 years of the human being. So the whole of this existence by the Quran, according to this ayah, it would mean that it took 6,000 years for this earth to form. 6,000 years. Now, what would have happened there is, when Allah had created the angels and then He decided to create the earth, then we know from an ayah in Surah Anbiya again, it was رَتْقًا فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا. An ayah in Surah Anbiya, Surah number 21 says that it was all together and then Allah then spread it out. Now, some people have gone to say that this is the evidence for evolution. But please don't be Muslims who jump to this, because we Muslims don't need to go into, now we don't need to prove the Quran is testifying what science has already discovered, because the discovery of science is not complete. Muslims make this mistake. So what happens is that when they said that the earth is going around, so the earth is in the middle, is in an axis, and the sun and all the stars are going around the earth, all right? There would have been some scholars who would have said, see, the Quran said, yeah, everything's going around, all right? They're all going around in orbit. But then it was the science went to say that no, it's the earth that is going around the sun, and that the sun is on an axis. And there were scholars who said that yes, see, the Quran said, the same, different scholars in a different era, they said, did you see, the Quran said, everything is orbiting around, and that's what it means now. What science just said, that's what we mean. And then finally they said, well, the sun is also moving, and all the stars are moving, and the planets are moving. And now today's scholars are saying, the Quran in Surah Yasin has said, kullun fi falakin yasbahun, everything is moving in its own axis, everything, including the sun. See, the Quran was right. Now, if you look at that's a really, that's a dodgy way of going around trying to chase science. We don't need to chase science and say, oh yeah, you've changed. Let's look back in the Quran. Yeah, you were right. You know what? The Quran, yeah, we were right before you, right? And when they change, each time they change, we try and change along with them. Now that's really dodgy. Now, what we've got in the Quran, we should blatantly tell the world, this is what the Quran has said, and we don't care about you.
I will say this about science. I say this as a general statement, and I think that we saw this, I know, we saw this with the COVID disaster that took over, the pandemic, that the science is constantly changing, and I have a feeling that in many, many, many aspects of science, dating back for many years, that you're going to continue to see those changes in science, and that's just something that, I always keep in mind. All right, let's go.
In the Quran, we should blatantly tell the world, this is what the Quran has said, and we don't care about you. You will eventually come to it. Like one of the things that we're seeing in this is what Allah created the human being by. Adam a.s., when Adam a.s. was created, he was created by clay. Clay, the word is clay, and it's hama'in, which is dark clay. And it's something which was a dry clay until Allah Azza wa Jal fashioned it and so on. We'll get to that in a while. But if you look at modern science, they're going to say, what? They're going to say, Clay? Human beings are made, you know what? You say the human being is made of clay? Now they're outrightly denying it. And it looks like, you know, if you go by science, it's going to look like we're a bunch of monkeys here trying to say that, you know, we've been made of clay, right? But if you think about it, we should stand up and say, no, you scientists, you're a bunch of whatever, or I won't give you the word. You're a bunch of whatever. The Quran has said it, khalas, just wait, just sit down, just say as loud as you can to the whole of the world and say, yes, we have been made of water. Quran has established mimma'in. It said water, it has said, one party says water, one party says nutfa, it says semen, another party says clay. Now it was made by all these things. All these things are the combination of the human being. Now they might deny this today, but we should outrightly say, no, this is the truth, this is it. What will happen eventually is science one day is going to have a discovery. It's going to say that we've now, with our new mechanism, we found that there's element of clay inside the human being. That's the day we should shout out about. And you know what we should do? Before they actually start to discover this, we should blast this across the world. There's going to be a lot of people laughing at us. A lot of people saying, you Muslims are stupid, your Quran is wrong, you've got it all upside down, you don't know what you're talking about, right? Science says this. Let's blast it across the world until the day they discover it. That's when they will say, Muslims are right, we got it wrong. We've been bullying these Muslims, we've been ridiculing these Muslims, and these Muslims have got it right in the Quran.
Yeah, I think I remember Neil deGrasse Tyson, the American astrophysicist, is that he was saying, there's a video he has, it's actually, it's really pleasant to listen to. It's a fun thing to listen to. But it was talking about how I think the human being has elements of stardust or carbon, as part of the genetic makeup. And that makes me wonder, as he was talking about clay, I know nothing about clay, but if you like really break down every element that's inside of it, that would be interesting to compare to what we know about the makeup of a human being from a scientific standpoint right now. I would definitely be interested to look more into that. All right, let's go.
We've been bullying these Muslims, we've been ridiculing these Muslims, and these Muslims have got it right in the Quran. So my point here is, don't try and, chase science and trying to use the Quran as a mechanism to try and prove what science is. Now, getting back to the creation of what Allah Azza wa Jal created, He created the angels fine, He created the earth, right? If I get the chance in one of these sessions to go through what Allah did with the earth and how He created it, because there's a lot of things in that to learn. We can learn a lot. Now, 6 days or 6,000 years it took. But then the seventh day, there was no creation, because we've got 7 days. So our understanding is, and this is by one of my, again, I've had wonderful teachers. One of the wonderful teachers I've had is Mullah Fadl Rahim, and he's gone deep into these tafsirs. One of the big tafsirs to go into, it's in Arabic, is Ruhul Ma'ani by Allama Alusi. Now, I'll be honest with you, each ayah, I was just reading it just last week. If you look under each ayah, you're looking at pages and pages and pages under almost each word or few words. Right? This is a tafsir written with about, if you count about 40 lines, with each line got about 15 to about 18 words, 15 words or something, all right? 40 lines, and you've got one volume that is about that thick, and you've got about 15 of these volumes, right, for the whole Quran tafsir. It is an ocean, right? Now on this, he's got a lot of, he's collected a lot, and he said a lot. And one of the things he says is, Allama Alusi says is, that there's a reason why Allah Azza wa Jal created the earth, and He created in 6 days. And there was nothing on the seventh day. Now the biblical story that has been altered has completely got it wrong, which is that God rested on the seventh day. That's completely wrong. The reason why is Allah Azza wa Jal wanted to teach the human beings. This is one big lesson we learn from this. He wanted to teach the human beings that the creation cannot continue on a 7-day period working. It can't. It will go bust. There will be mechanisms in the human being that will go bust. The creation has been created, and all this creation will be created in a way that it demands a rest. That's why it's good to have a day off, at least one day off, if not have 2 days off, to stop your system, to remove work away from rest itself. This seventh day that was left was not for God. It was for His creation to understand that the creation will need rest. Right?
Yeah, I can I can speak to that a little bit. When I was in the military, excuse me one second. When I was in the military, there was a time where we were on 12-hour shifts, I think for like 3 months straight, and there was no days off. And those shifts were really, once you did like the shift turnover and you finally got home, it was closer to like 14 hours. And, you know, it starts to catch up with you, especially after like the second, third, fourth week. It just really, I don't know, it's like you have like no time for anything but work. And you start to feel like a zombie, and like your morale starts to kind of go down a little bit. And yeah, I think just by the end, and when you finally get done with that process and you can go back to like a 5-day work week, it's a very great sense of relief, and you almost feel guilty about having time off. It's like a weird feeling when that happens. But yeah, let's go.
It was for His creation to understand that the creation will need rest. Right? The other thing is, we understand that another big debate is that Allah Azza wa Jal, He says kun and fayakun. He says be and it is. This is in Surah Yasin and many other parts of the Quran. So why didn't Allah Azza wa Jal just say be, and the whole thing would have just been, just come into existence? And Allama Alus and many other Mufassirun say again there, is that Allah Azza wa Jal, He took 6,000 human years to make this, because He wanted to show us that the things that are made over time, that take dedication, that take a lot of effort, that take a lot of patience to make, are more, they will last longer than those things that are created in haste. That things are created in haste. And there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that says that الأنات من الله والعجلة من الشيطان أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. الأنات من الله والعجلة من الشيطان, which means that to take your time to perfect something is an original act of God, but to be hasty and do something in haste is an act of the devil. Right? So we Muslims, one of the things we should learn is that you do something, you do it properly. And there's another hadith where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the end of his life, in the 9th year of his Medina life, there's many different tribes that are coming to see the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there's one individual, and I haven't got the name in my head right now, but there's one individual who comes, and all his fellow people, they rush to see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They're Muslims, they've embraced Islam, they've never seen the Prophet ﷺ, they embraced it in a faraway town somewhere, they spent several days coming to Medina, and they all, when they came to Medina, what's the first thing you want to do? The Prophet ﷺ is alive, he's in the masjid, you want to go straight away, so they all ran into the they went straight away, hurrying to the masjid, and they met the Prophet ﷺ, and they hugged him and so on, they sat with him, and then later on comes this one man. And Rasulullah ﷺ then finds out that this man is from this tribe, and that he didn't come with the rest of them. He wasn't hasty. And the Prophet ﷺ said, who are you? And then he said who he was. I said, where were you? And he said, well, Messenger of Allah, when I came to Medina, obviously we had traveled for so many days. So what I wanted to do, I didn't want to meet you in that state. I didn't want to be all dusty and, need a shower or need a bath. And then, so he said, I went away. My rest of my colleagues, they came to you and they met you, my peers, they came and seen you. But I went away and I bathed. I bathed properly, I put good clothes on, and then I've come to see you. That's when Rasulullah ﷺ said to him, he said, you have got some qualities in you that Allah loves. And he said, one of those qualities Allah loves is to take your time to do something nicely. Right? So this is what we learn from this, is that Allah Azza wa Jal, He took His time to make the world, because the world's going to last a long time. And He's teaching human beings that when you craft and create something, because in these 6 days or 6,000 years, He shaped the mountains, He made the oceans, He made He put in onto it the trees and the many things that it needed. Allah Azza wa Jal did that. Right? So he's teaching us that craftsmanship, or to create something, we all know that monuments that have been made with extra care, they last a lot longer than monuments and buildings that you just create in haste and they will be finished just in 30 years or 20 years. Okay? So when Allah Azza wa Jal created all this, the Mufassirun say, and this comes from the whole tafsir behind Iblis. Right? Now Iblis is a creation of God. Iblis is a creation of God. Iblis is a jinn. Iblis is, he's made of fire, which the Quran talks again in several places that he's made of fire. But where did Iblis come from? And were there the likes of Iblis before? So the Mufassirun have commented. Again, this is based on Israeli riwayat, from those narrations that I talked about earlier. And what Allah Azza wa Jal did is that He created a whole creation of jinns that were on the earth. And this is, you will find in many of the early Mufassirun have commented on this. He created them on the earth. And they were those who, on the earth, they had got taklif. Now what is taklif? Taklif is that God's now given them a responsibility to recognize Him. Now when Allah gives responsibility to creation, He will send messengers. So what Allah did is that He sent jinn messengers. So before there was human messengers, before Adam alayhi salam, who was the first human messenger, there were many jinn messengers that...
Okay, so yeah, I have heard that term jinn, and I believe I've read about it a little bit, but this is the first I've heard anything about jinn messengers. And just to backtrack for a second, I was thinking about that when he was saying, it's like, yeah, God, He could create everything with just the snap of a finger, or just like the quickest thought, and everything could just exist perfectly, right? But by doing it in that fashion and taking time to do it, yeah, it's like He's saying it shows us like that is how we do it. Like I don't know if this is a phrase in Islam, but in Christianity, they say, God made us in His image. And if I was looking at it from a Christian perspective, I think that's the way I would look at it. Like, in His image is how to take your time with things to make something of the highest quality. So we observe that God does that, and then we mimic that behavior because we are in His image. Does that make sense? But yeah, okay, so this is going to be interesting. I'm going to rewind it just a little bit more because I have just started to learn about jinn, so I want to make sure that I really pick this up. Let me see here. Let me go back a little more. Okay, let's start here.
Given them a responsibility to recognize Him. Now when Allah gives responsibility to creation, He will send messengers. So what Allah did is that He sent jinn messengers. So before there was human messengers, before Adam alayhi salam, who was the first human messenger, there were many jinn messengers that Allah Azza wa Jal sent to them. Now the jinns are made of fire, and the jinns, one of the things they have inside, being fiery is that you're angry and you're hasty, you're fast, you're very powerful. Now the sifat and the qualities that the jinns have between them is that they are in fights, and they are in quarrels, and they are in superiority, and who can prove who's greater. This is one of the nature of the jinns, and they're always in the spirit of challenge. Now there are good jinns. Allah Azza wa Jalla has said that in Surah Jinn itself. He's talked about two different groups of jinns, and He said the salihun, and there's those who are pious and those who are not pious. Now the ones that were on the earth were both types, and messengers came down. But the messengers in their many numbers were killed by the jinns on the earth. And there was great corruption that prevailed on the earth. There was great corruption that prevailed on the earth. That's when Allah Azza wa Jal, He decided that, obviously from the jinns, there were those who were very pious. Now there was one notable jinn that was very pious. And again, all of this is in the Israeli riwayat. You can't verify it and say it's absolutely authentic. You can't deny it and say it's a total, it's totally false. So from these narrations, what we get is that the Iblis, being who he was a good jinn, and he started to worship God to the extent that Allah allowed him. Because jinns could fly, and jinns could go through many of the heavens. They could go up and down. They didn't have to stay on the earth. They didn't have to stay on the earth. They could travel up. It was only when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came that they were trapped within this first universe. This is clear from the Quran. This in Surah Safat you will find this. In Surah Jinn you will find this, that Allah did not allow them to go beyond the first heaven, or the first heaven meaning the end of this universe. They can't go past that after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam became a prophet. But before that they could go above that. So what happened is that on these travels, Iblis proved himself that he was so close to God. And Allah Azza wa Jal then allowed him to get closer and closer to higher and higher basically. And they say in some of these narrations that there was no space in the heavens was left, like no large space was left in the heaven, but Iblis had gone there and he had worshipped God. So he was a very, very, very close, you could say jinn, servant jinn, however you want to put it, to God. Until then, Allah Azza wa Jal allowed him to come in the company of the malaika, of the angels. And he got the chance to be in the company of the malaika. Now, that we know, that the fact that Iblis can see the angels and the fact that the angels can see him, that we know established from the Quran, because that's in Surah Baqarah, that's in Surah Hijr, and it's all written there that there was this conversation going on when Allah told the angels to bow down. So Iblis clearly was able to see the angels and so on bowing down, and he refused to bow down. Now, however he got here, this is the Israeli riwayat. Now he got together. Now the Israeli riwayat say another thing, which is that Iblis was sent. Allah decided that He's going to send the angels down to the earth and to banish the mutamarrideen, or those jinns that had causes a lot of corruption on the earth. So this group was going to come down and they're going to kill many of these jinns that were just out of control. Iblis volunteered that if he can come with the angels to kill these corrupted jinns on the earth, and Allah Azza wa Jal gave him permission. So he came and they killed a lot of these jinns. They left only a few on the earth. And from these few again, the progeny of the jinns would start. Now Iblis returns back. Now many maybe hundreds of years, I don't know, whatever is going by, because jinns have very long lives. They don't have short lives that the human beings that, we only have 60, 70, 100 years. They have hundreds of years. Perhaps they could have a few thousands of years of living. Just Adam alayhi salam, he lived about 1,000 or more thousand years. Nuh alayhi salam, we know according to the Quran, he propagated for 950 years. So we don't know how. Now this is the early human beings. Later on, there's a hadith in Tirmidhi that explains that Allah Azza wa Jal then started to cut down on the size of this human being that Allah Azza wa Jal created, which was Adam alayhi salam. But anyway, coming back to this original thing, which was, now you've got Iblis that has gone down there, that has banished these jinns, most of them who are corrupted on the earth, and is returned back with the angels. Now he was with the angels, but Allah makes it very clear in Surah Isra, or Surah Bani Israel. Allah makes it very clear that he was not from the malaika, he was from the jinn. Now, why Allah makes that clear is because we understand that no jinn can ever, no malak or no angel can ever disobey Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah's made it in their nature not to disobey Allah, but a jinn can. So the biblical sources, they've now faltered again. They call it a fallen angel. So what they say is that if an angel decides to go against the will of God or the command of God, then that angel, Allah drops him from the rank of the angels, and now he becomes a fallen angel. That's the biblical sort of side, or what some of them believe. The Muslims don't believe that. No angel can ever disobey Allah Azza wa Jal. So that's where we find that Iblis was able to disobey Allah, because he wasn't from the malaika.
Yeah, again, I haven't read the Old Testament or any of it in many, many years, but I believe that is correct from a Christian standpoint, that Satan is considered like a fallen angel that disobeyed God, and that's how all that happened. So, and then, in Islam, as he just said, and you guys have told me that before, that God created angels so that they cannot disobey God. That's the way that they're made. So it's like literally impossible. All right, let's go.
Find that Iblis was able to disobey Allah because he wasn't from the Malaika. Now there's one thing here. Why is it that Iblis is now going to disobey God? Now you've got to understand the whole thing behind the creation of Adam alayhi salam. Suddenly Allah reveals to the angels and he says, and this is the ayah that we're on today. وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ. Now this is Surah Baqarah, ayah number 30. وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ. When your Lord, your provider, when your sustainer said to the angels, I am about to make on the earth a Khalifa. I'm about to make a vicegerent, or someone who will take command, second in charge, or someone who will rule again, reign after the last reigning. I'm about to make a Khalifa on the earth. Now, when Allah said that, Iblis got really happy, right? He must have got really happy, and you know why? Because Iblis knows that the angels are not the ones who are going to rule the earth. If there's anyone, there's going to be the creation from the jinns. Allah is going to now make a Khalifa perhaps from the jinns. But Allah's decision wasn't that He's going to make a Khalifa or a vicegerent from the jinns. His decision now was that He's going to create this new creation. Now this shocked Iblis, because all these years that Iblis had worshipped Allah and had been so good was because he wanted power. He wanted prestige. He wanted to be in charge of the earth. He wanted to be, come back on the earth, and he's going to be sent perhaps as a messenger, or he's going to be sent with a new command of God on the earth, or he's going to be in charge of the jinns on the earth. There's something beautiful that's going to come for Iblis, or that jinn that he's a jinn, something that he had a big glimmer and a big hope in, and all that was getting crushed now with this new creation. Now, who is this new creation? What has he done? He's got no history. Now think about Iblis, what's going through his head. He's seeing that there's no history of this thing, this creature. And what did Allah do? Allah Azza wa Jal, He took, now this is a hadith in Tirmidhi. Allah took different parts of the earth and He molded it into clay, and from there there was water added to that until that clay turned dark and black. And then that clay, Allah fashioned it into the form of the human being. And then what Allah did is that He then waited till it was dry. And then, now this is taking time. We don't know how long this took. So this clay now goes dry. Then Allah creates the holes inside this. So basically there will be the hole of the mouth and the hole of the ears, the two ears, the holes of the private parts, and the hole of the nostrils and so on. So when you make a hole in a clay, then if you were to hit, or if you just to strike that clay, it will make a sound. All these things Allah describes in the Quran. I'm gonna tell you what words refers to this, but let me give you the outer part of this. So it would make a sound. Now it's getting even more, it's getting even more sort of real. This thing Allah's created. Now this is in the space of where the angels can see it, Iblis can see it, and Allah's fashioned it. And now when the clay is becoming dry, it's taking a different color. And the color that it takes eventually is the color of wheat. And that's why Adam alayhi salam got his name from, because Adam is from udum, which is wheat, and his color was the color of wheat, right? Light brown kind of color. Now, if you want to know the superior color of the human race, it is what? It is wheat. It is the color. So the closer your color is to wheat, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Some brothers in the world, they die to try and become like Europeans and the Americans and so on, to get a redneck and to have white skin or whatever. That is not that is one side from the dhurriya, from the progeny of Adam, and the other extent is the other side of, let's say, our brothers from Africa. But Allah Azza wa Jal, He took from the earth, from different parts of it, He took many different parts of it, and He created Adam alayhi salam. So He took from the white rocks, He took from the black rocks, He took from the brown soil, He took from the red, He took all these different colors, all right, from the yellow sort of sandy type of ground material that you get. Allah took all of that. This is all these different parts that Allah took. Why? There's a reason. And we learn a big lesson from it. Because if Allah, first, if He didn't take from all these different material, from the progeny of Adam, you wouldn't get that many different colors. So to create those colors, Allah took that. A second thing, the reason why is because to understand the whole thing about race. We are different race. We are all children of one big family. Right? Imagine, you just look at one another and think, right, that we're all from one great-grandfather.
This is making me think of a quote from a movie. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but the movie Robin Hood that came out in like 1990, I think, with Kevin Costner and Morgan Freeman. But Morgan Freeman is a Muslim in the movie, and there's a white European child in the movie, and he asks Morgan Freeman, why did God paint your skin black? And then he replied to the child, because God loves variety. I always thought that was a great quote, and it just makes sense. All right, let's go.
Right? Imagine, you just look at one another and think, right, that we're all from one great-grandfather, right? One great-grandmother, right? It makes you feel sort of close. And Allah Azza wa Jalla says in Surah Hujurat, Ya ayyuhan nas inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha. O people, we created from one male and one female. Now, and Allah says, I made you in different tribes and so on. And Allah says, the most noble of you are those who has the greatest taqwa. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. Now, the beauty of this is that Allah takes from different parts of land, and He says, different parts of land from one pair of human beings. One pair, only one pair, Adam and Hawa. And from there He creates all of the creation, and He tells that creation, the most noble of you are the ones who have taqwa, or the ones who have God consciousness. Now the beauty of that is, whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're red, whether you're brown, whatever color you want to call yourself, all right? The beauty is that the taqwa is in each and every one of them. That's the beauty of it.
Oh, is that it? Okay, I'm not sure how many parts there are to this series. I think there's quite a few for Adam, and I think it goes through many prophets. So I did like that. It's very informative, and it was nice to get like details like that, a great backstory on that, because maybe I didn't look into it properly, or maybe the information is not out there as it pertains to Christianity, because I never heard any other like backstories about the creation like that. It was just whatever is written in Genesis, so that was definitely really cool to see that. But I'm hoping that I'll be back tomorrow. I'm on call this weekend for my job, so if I get a call, I gotta work. Hopefully that doesn't happen like it did today, because I would love to do part 2 and maybe even part 3 tomorrow. And if I don't have to work, I'm gonna definitely try to make that happen, because this is just fun. It's fun to learn. And when I started to read the Quran, this has started to answer some of my questions a bit. And I have no doubt that as we go through the series for Adam, it's going to probably fill in a lot more gaps in my brain than I have right now. Yeah, whoever recommended the Prophet series, or maybe it was a few of you, thank you for doing that. I don't regret that at all. This is a cool video. So, but yeah. It's starting to get a little bit late. I need to start getting ready for bed. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow.